Hi, my name is Karen Ellery Jones, and today's special guest is Senator Therese Murray. Welcome, good to see you again.
Thank you, glad to be here.
Yes, well, you've got a busy couple of weeks till election, so we'll just jump straight in. We've got a few questions, and here we go.
Okay.
I know that and everyone was delighted that the Massachusetts unemployment rate has been well below the national average and continues to be so. Can you tell, us, how our economy is doing and what progress we have made?
Massachusetts is in a pretty good spot right now. Would we like to be even better? Yes, but compared to other states, we are really doing very well. We have unemployment rate, the national unemployment rate, as you know, just dropped to 7.8, but we dropped to 6.3. And the Cape Cod is under 5%. Which is pretty amazing.
Is it really?
It really is,
wow.
And that's because of the service industry, the tourism industry on the Cape has done extremely well, as it has in Plymouth County also. And in fact, we've had over 23. We've had a 10% increase in the number of tourists from last year through this year. And that means about $16.9 billion that comes into our economy. And of that, we keep about $1.1 billion in revenue, and which creates or keeps people, 125,000 people working. So tourism is still really big for the Cape, really big for Plymouth County. Healthcare, tourism is the way our economy runs.
Right.
And because of that, and because we've changed our marketing for tourism, we brought those numbers up. And I was able to put additional money in last year's budget and again in this year's budget for international marketing also, combine all our marketing agencies under economic development, that we're seeing the fruits of that now. We're seeing more and more international visitors, and they stay longer and they spend more money.
Right, I was just going to say that, you have to market outside of the U.S. You've got the European vacationers who vacation on the minimum of 2 weeks.
That's right. And when the economy crashed in 2008, they came that year because they'd already paid, they already made their commitments. But 9 was a little tough, 10, but we really got back into those markets and started marketing. So our German market is back, our UK market is back, and we have a brand. It used to be a traditional market for us, Japan, but because of Japan's fiscal crisis, really over the last 15 years. We kind of lost that market. We are back on top with that market. We're starting to see a resurgence in since we have the direct flight from Boston to Japan.
Right. We're
seeing, and a lot more Asian visitors coming through that way also. So for the first time in a long time, you can see a lot of Asian tourists coming through, and that's terrific for us. And of course, our domestic market, boomers. We really market to a lot of boomers, but the Cape does these great niche markets, like Provincetown has. Every weekend they have something different going on down there. Last weekend, Wellfleet had the Oyster Festival. We have the Christmas strolls, in Chatham and Sandwich, and the parade in Falmouth. So I think we've learned to market ourselves beyond our traditional summertime into into that shoulder market and beyond, and it's really paid off.
Yeah. In Massachusetts, I think that we have a lot to be proud of. Our healthcare system, our education, our technology sector. We were recently ranked as #1 in the annual Beacon Hill Institute State Competitiveness Report. And why did we receive such a high grade?
Innovation, public safety, education, and technology. And we are #1 in the country. Our kids, K-12, and our students are #1 in the country. And we've put a lot of effort into that when we started with ed reform back in '93 and we're seeing the fruits of that right now. We are now the place to come for bio, pharma, and high tech, and engineering for the apps, for all the new apps that we're looking for. They have a need for software engineers also. So our economy is more stable and our bond rating is higher. And we have the academic research institutions. You're seeing companies that would normally have grown in, say, California or Texas or New York are coming here. And they're putting their headquarters here. We've seen international companies that are coming here to set up their headquarters or to open a branch here. And that is a huge positive. In fact, the 22nd, 3rd, and 4th of October, we are going to have a major Connected Health Conference at the State House. We're hosting it there. 17 different countries, bringing at least 9 or 10 companies each that want to do business with us here.
Oh, wow.
And not just do business, but research with our scientists and their researchers, and open their books and work together. So we're not working in silos, working on the same diseases, say in Northern Ireland or Finland. We're working on the same, and here our researchers are now joining together, opening up their books, and they're working together. So those cures should become quicker, and or treatments should come quicker than they have in the past. And I think sometimes a down economy makes you think outside the box, and that's what we've been doing.
And I think they also come here because of the educated workforce.
That absolutely, that's my favorite saying is, you know, we have this tiny little state. You have Texas with oil and gas. You have California. You have North Dakota. You have all these other states who have gas and oil. We don't have any of that, or coal. But what we do have that they don't have is the educated workforce, and that is what attracts people to us and companies.
Right. I just want to move on to the upgrade in our bond rating. I know that we received an upgrade last year, and what does this mean for Massachusetts?
Well, that's another reason we got the #1 in competitiveness. It means lower borrowing rates. And we had to do a couple things that were very tough to get that new bond rating, which, by the way, is the highest Massachusetts has ever received. And that is, we had to address our pension systems, and we had to address the cost of health care, public employees' health care, both of which we've done. And, of course, we now have 99% of our children covered with health care and 98% of our adults. All of those things factor into the rating agency's decisions, and we took the tough decision. We took the tough votes on the pension and health care. We've moved ahead with payment reform on health care, and there is no other state that has the number of people who have insurance that Massachusetts does. So all of that goes into the bond rating. Okay.
I know that over the course of the last few years, small businesses have been particularly affected by the economic downturn. How has the legislature worked to help small businesses during this time?
We've actually done a lot. 2 years ago, we passed an economic development bill that took a look at all of these state agencies that had to do anything to do with the economy and small business. And we consolidated a lot of those agencies. We got rid of some of the quasis, got rid of some of the others. We formed that marketing partnership for 5 different agencies so that we're marketing Massachusetts with one voice now in all those areas. And we took a look at the regulations and the numbers of regulations that don't help businesses grow. We've eliminated a few hundred of those already. We have a small business ombudsman that we've named so that you can go through to that person if you're having an issue with regulations or policy. We have one portal, businesses who want to expand or or come here. We have one portal that can go through the Economic Development Office. And I created a fund called the Capital Growth Fund that, for those small businesses who couldn't access additional loans or funding, they can go to this fund and apply, but they also get assistance. They get technical assistance to help them grow their companies or to keep their companies alive. And that has just been a huge success, leveraging over $133 million private dollars and creating, I think it's like over 1,300 new jobs while saving 4,000 jobs. And it's just been a huge success.
I know that a lot of people have said that, you know, all these regulations in Massachusetts and other particular states are just, you know, forcing small businesses out, but it seems as though that you're reducing the amount of of regulations.
We are.
Because of the complaints from small business owners.
Well,
which is nice
it's
to hear.
also because we're looking at why aren't certain things growing. Right. So we took a look at all of the regulations, and by the way, there's thousands in the books. And they were going through the Executive Office of Administration and Finance, along with the commissioners, going through every single one of those. Mm-hmm. Are they needed? Are they? Some of them are so antiquated they shouldn't even be on the books.
Right.
And then the ones that might need to stay, how do you tweak them and make them easier mm-hmm. For businesses? And then there are some that we might need to put in place, given the compounding I guess scandal you would call it at this point, that terrible tragedy with the compounding pharmacies. Mm-hmm. Who was supposed to be looking over them? They had a license from Massachusetts just to give individuals the compounding medicine, but they had 15 other licenses from other states, and they were bulk shipping. Now, it was the FDA's responsibility, but somebody had to know they were manufacturing in bulk there. Mm. So there's a place where regulation might need to be put in place. Right. once we figure out really what happened there. But and having this small business ombudsman is a real plus. Plus healthcare payment reform and small business healthcare payment reform, which we did 2 years ago, mm-hmm. has allowed small businesses to aggregate together.
To form a group.
To form a group,
okay.
Like the Retailers Association mm-hmm. has, like our own chambers have. And bring those costs down, so you can get an average of 20 to 40%, between 20 and 40% less now for your employees if you join these groups.
Right, and are you finding that a lot of the businesses are doing that, in fact?
Absolutely are. In fact, I was talking with a number of businesses at a forum in Boston last week, and one company in particular, a screw and bolt company that's been in business for 60 years, who went through kind of a reconfiguration and layoffs during the bad times, is now thriving and growing, and they actually had no increase in their health insurance this year because they joined and aggregated. Mm-hmm.
They must have been delighted.
They were very happy.
Considering that the cost of insurance has, steadily been increasing.
It was increasing double digits, 16% in 2009. So when we stopped that and said to both the insurers and the providers, the costs have got to come down. But they have to come down while we provide quality health care and better access to health care and outcomes, positive outcomes mm-hmm. and wellness. So instead we're investing in wellness programs and preventive programs, changing the model of health care so you don't just see your doctor when you're sick. You see your doctor and she or he are going to keep you healthy. Right. And it's going to cost the taxpayers less, and it's going to cost you mm-hmm. less in the long run.
That's the benefit of having so many people insured, is that when people have insurance, they're more likely to go to the physician if they're sick instead of waiting until a problem comes up that's so bad that they end up in the hospital. And
you know what, Massachusetts again was at the forefront of adding, mm-hmm. allowing children up to the age of 26 to stay on their parents' insurance, and including not allowing insurance companies, if you have a pre-existing condition, mm-hmm. to say we're not going to cover that just because you're changing insurers. So those are two huge positives for us, and also identifying the fact that almost 80 to 90% of healthcare dollars are spent on end-of-life care, and for those who have chronic illness like heart disease and mm-hmm. diabetes, the bulk of the healthcare dollars go there. So how can we do this better? And we do it better by keeping those individuals well, who have hypertension or heart disease or diabetes, making sure someone's connecting with them to take their medication so that they don't end up in ER. And of course, asthma is another one of those. Making sure that they have a healthy environment so that they're not ending up in the emergency room as often. And it's proven in all the pilots we have across the state that we are saving money by doing that kind of preventive care. Mm-hmm.
Super. I know that the Senate has passed two separate economic development bills, one in 2010 and the other at the end of the last session in July. How did these bills help the small businesses specifically?
Well, I kind of referred to some of those before. I know by coordinating all those agencies mm-hmm. and coordinating all our marketing, we have been able to bring costs down. And by the way, we've also added performance management. So the governor, through executive order last year, said that all of the state agencies that come under the executive must do performance-based management. And so they're going to measure the outcomes. Is something needed? Is something not needed? We've done that in legislation for the in the state budget for every single item in the state budget. And we've also made it easier for businesses to get on the state bid lists and to figure out is there a niche for them for getting businesses through the state also. But the first step was reorganizing the agencies, getting rid of the dead wood, figuring out how to better take the money we do have and use it better. And then this past year we did the jobs bill, and that aligns the community colleges with their curriculum with the jobs that are actually needed, the jobs of today and tomorrow that are needed. We presently have about 140,000, 145,000 jobs that are going unfilled in Massachusetts because people don't have the correct training, not necessarily for your college training, the correct training for those. And that could be vocational school training and then maybe 2 years after or a certificate afterwards to get into that. And that's that new clean manufacturing, the new robotics manufacturing for big pharma and for high tech. And those are, and again for software and apps, those jobs are open. But they require a different type of curriculum and education in order to fill them. So we've changed that. We've realigned our education system to look at what the needs are that are out there. It's great to get 40 kids coming out of, say, a community college who graduated with a history degree, but what is that? How is that going to apply for them for work? Right. And how does that translate?
So then you're looking, I think that's a great idea. I know that in England, for example, not everyone goes to a four-year university. Not everyone goes to a two-year community college. They have all sorts of certificates geared towards specific jobs.
And that's exactly, we're looking at marine science. We have all of these marinas all over the state because we're on the water. Right. They always have a need for technicians. We have veterinarian technicians. Again, don't need a 4 or maybe even a 2 that can work in veterinarians' offices or in clinics. There's a lot of innovation going on between the business community and the education community, saying this is what our needs are, these are what our needs are going to be for tomorrow, and how can we work together to meet those.
Right. So it seems like what I'm hearing from you is that you're really doing a great partnership between
the public and
the private sector, which I think everyone can agree works best that way, is when two entities work together to solve problems.
Well, we have a different environment also in the Massachusetts legislature. We are not like the Congress. We actually sit down and talk to each other, and we work across the table, and we work across party lines. That's why we have had such a successful session this 2 years and the 2 years before. The governor, myself, and the speaker, and the Ways and Means chairs, and the A&F secretary, we meet every Monday, but I meet with my counterpart, the minority leader, every Thursday, or it used to be Tuesday. We'll meet his schedule on Thursday. So we'd sit down together and figure out how to move the Commonwealth forward, how to address the economic factors that are affecting everyone, or the healthcare factors, or the educational needs, or substance abuse. There's so many things we work on multiple fronts, but we work on them together. Do we philosophically agree all the time? Not necessarily. But we agree to sit down and work it out. The habitual offender bill, Senator Tarr and I worked very hard on that bill to make sure it happened. And it did take 8 months, but we put out a bill that's going to hopefully make sure that these repeat felons never come out of jail, never receive probation.
Seems like you probably could give some lessons to Congress on how to get
along.
Well,
it's frustrating for us, really, on both sides of the aisle. It's very frustrating for us to see members of Congress willing to bring this country to their knees and have our credit rating lowered. Instead of talking to each other and working it out.
Right.
Let's work it out. Compromise is not a bad word.
Right. And it's not easy.
It's not, oh, believe me, it's not easy. It takes a long time to get to where you can both agree that this is something we can live with. Is it everything I wanted? Is it everything you wanted? No, but we live to fight another day to revisit that. But let's put this together, let's get this done, see how it works, and if we have to revisit it, or if there are things can be added or deleted later, then we'll do that.
Right. The Associated Industries of Massachusetts, they came out with their scorecard, legislative scorecard, and it reports on the voting record of Massachusetts legislators on issues that are important to employers. What was their overall view of the past year in the legislature?
Well, I would say that they were very positive, extremely positive. They had given us what their agenda, and they do that every year. We covered the things that were important to them. The cost of energy. We put competition and reliability. We passed two bills. One on the reliability of the system after the storms that we had over the last 2 years, where people were without power for weeks. The other, the cost of energy. We revisited the long-term contracts and the cost of those long-term contracts, and we added competition in that to try and bring those costs down. Again, healthcare payment reform. They wanted us to do that. We did that. It took a long time, put it together. It's a very complicated issue, but it's going to save us $200 billion over the next 15 years. So the things that they asked us to do, we did. We froze the unemployment rate again this year. Saved a lot of money for small businesses. So they gave us a very high scorecard, and then they individually scored the members also, and I believe I received the highest. Certainly did in the Senate, and I believe I'm probably the highest for Democrats in the legislature.
Congratulations. In this report, the AIM notes that legislators earned good grades for addressing important issues, and we already said that. Okay, I just reread a question I was going to ask you again. That is why I have my glasses. In July, a bill that you filed last year to address our outdated state finance laws was enacted by the legislature. Can you tell us more about the key initiatives in this bill and what changes?
It's going to change the way we put our budgets together. Right now we have some antiquated program that a lot of states do, and it's called maintenance budgeting. So you build your budget every year. You bring the agencies come in and they talk to you. All the people with programs come in and talk to you and say, okay, you gave me, and I'll give an example, $1 million last year. In order to do what we did last year, we need $1.1 million because of the cost of inflation. Or we need that, plus we want to expand this program because we think it did a good job, and we need $1.3 million. Now they go to the governor, and they go to the House, and they go to the Senate, and this is what they tell us. And then we have to figure out, this is what our analysts do. Okay, how much did they spend? How much did they revert any money? Did they go over, and did we have to give them a supplemental budget? And why? And what do they really need? So instead, we're going to do performance-based budgeting. We're going to say, how much did you get last year? What did you do with that? What were the outcomes of that? Now, if it proves that the outcomes are, if we expanded that program and gave more money to that program, we could maybe get rid of a different program that's not doing so well. But we're going to have some data. And that's what we've been looking for years, is give us the data so we can prove that this is working or not working.
Right.
We will have that data.
Is that something new in government, is actually looking at the outcomes to ensure that a program is actually worth the cost of?
You know, you have anecdotal. You have all these good people coming in saying this is what we've done and this is where we think we should go. But let's back up and see what the outcomes were. And let's use human services as an example. If one program on the North Shore is doing that's funded through the state is doing a great job with great outcomes, serving more children, say through early ed and care. Why is it that a program, and again this is just an example, in Western Mass is not having that same outcome? What can we use as the tools that came out of the North Shore model and apply those to the Western Mass model and see if that works better for them, but not just give them what they had before. Put some controls in there and say, this is what you should be doing. And then eventually, there's a commission on there in that bill also that would get us to zero-based budgeting, and that we would do zero-based budgeting every 4 years, because it'd be too difficult, take too long to do it every year, but then build up the budget from the beginning. Not look at what you got last year. Let's build it up from the bottom.
Okay. You have been focused on the foreclosure crisis here in Massachusetts, and I understand recently you joined the Attorney General in Falmouth to discuss this issue. What efforts have been made to curb the number of foreclosures in Massachusetts?
Well, the Attorney General has just done an outstanding job suing the big banks, really, and the mortgage companies who really defrauded. I mean, we got into this housing mix by having bundling of mortgages, and then people betting on that bundling of mortgages that it's going to increase in value. And then it goes on to the next group of people. So when the housing market crashed, no one knew who owned what. And you had banks foreclosing on properties they did not have the mortgages for. And that wasn't found out for, for a couple of years till they could try to pull this mess apart on the federal and the local level. So the Attorney General has gotten a settlement, and she's using that money to help people who have been or were in danger of being foreclosed on or have been foreclosed on, who have been paying. A lot of them were paying, and then we're told, well, no, we're going to call you mortgage because we have that, and you haven't paid us. But they were paying this bank, or they were paying that mortgage company. It's a terrible mess, and a lot of people have been harmed by that. So we in the legislature have done a 150-day cooling off period, mandatory that the bank show us the mortgage, prove that they have the mortgage, then sit down with the homeowner, see if they can work something out. I mean, if it's going to cost the bank the same or more to force that family out than to keep that family in the house, then modify the loan if it's the same or less. Modify the loan, let them stay in the house so we don't have all these vacant properties out there. Because once a house goes vacant, it becomes vandalized.
Right.
They strip the copper and the pipes out. They take if there's appliances, they take the appliances out, they take the granite out, and then everybody else who's around that property has their property values lowered.
Right.
So it's really important. It's not just the person who might whether they should or should not have had the mortgage they had. Many people, they were doing okay and they lost their job.
Right.
Or they were doing okay and they got these terrific medical bills that they couldn't pay. And that was as part of the recession. This was a great recession, the worst we've had since the Depression. And the big banks, and I want to make this real clear, the community banks have been wonderful. The smaller banks have been great. But it's the big banks who ate up all these mortgages and foreclosed. Sometimes they didn't even own the mortgages they foreclosed on. So we have a system in place. The AG has 3 offices set up around the Commonwealth that you can call and try to get some modification assistance through them. She's got additional people that she's hired that are on, and we get the calls, along with other legislators, we get calls.
From your constituents?
From my constituents, and have now for the past 2-3 years. And people, it's always the same story. I sent them the paperwork. They said if I needed to get it in by X day, and this is what I needed. I sent it in. I got a notice they were foreclosing in a week. What can I do? You call the bank, and they said, well, we never received it. Well, they did receive it. But another person in the bank received it. There's no communication going on in some of these big banks or big mortgage companies. So she has stepped in to stop that, and we have and she continues to hold the big banks' feet to the fire. But it's still the big banks we get the most complaints from.
What are your goals for the next legislative period? I mean, assuming that you are reelected, do you have any certain goals that you're looking at, or
yes,
you would like to achieve?
We are, as I said, we are the bright spot in the country for bio and high tech and data storage and those type of things. I would like to build on our higher education area and make sure that our higher ed, we try to bring the costs down for our public higher ed, so that more kids can enter.
And that's the state university system?
That's the state university and the community colleges. And again, make sure the curriculum fits the jobs of tomorrow and today. And which will continue to make us more attractive because that educated workforce stays there. As well as to build on our healthcare model. If our healthcare payment reform works, and I believe it will, it changes the whole model, and it creates a whole different group of jobs for the future. And those are the jobs of people monitoring people's health care. Again, the wellness programs, making sure that those things are going to work. And it's just a very exciting time to be in Massachusetts. It really is. And to push the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, that is what is pushing us forward. And of course, venture capitalists are now coming here also, and that's pretty exciting. They're buying up a lot of space in the Boston areas, but they're also coming outside Boston. We're going to all of my chambers of commerce have been invited to participate next week in the eHealth conference in Boston, and to have a little setup there so that they can talk to businesses. Do they have permitted space that might have the necessary water, whatever it is that they need, the companies that are looking to come here, we're gonna be ready to sell to them when they get here.
Right. Well, that sounds like a perfect list of goals to get started on for next season. And thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.